Welcome to Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music with your host, multi-award-winning music producer, Eddie Kilroy. And now, here's your host, Eddie Kilroy.
Hi, welcome to our podcast today. And this is going to be one that's even better than what we've done, I hope, because I got a great guy on here. Dale Sellers, one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived, had played on so many big records and spent a long time in Nashville, Tennessee. Dale, how are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Well, man, that's cool. How's the weather where you are?
Raining. Well,
Raining?
It's kind of slacked off right now. But,
we had storms in Oklahoma last night. 6.
Oh yeah,
we had 6. 6 tornadoes in Oklahoma. Hey, I want to introduce you to my sidekick, Jason Young. Jason has a great band, great singer, and works a whole lot around this part of the country.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, Jason. How are you, friend?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. I need to get you on a record, apparently.
Do what?
You come out and play for me.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get him on there.
Yeah, you get you on a record. Hey, Dale. We worked together a lot on a lot of sessions from Nashville, Tennessee to Colorado, and always had a good time. And, you became like a very, very close friend of mine from working together all these times. And let's talk about studio deals, okay? Tell me some of the records that you played on that the people will recognize.
The first hit record I ever played on, it went number 1, was Loretta Lynn, I Want to Be Free, and I think that was recorded in 1971. And then, I did a lot of stuff with John Connolly, Rose-Colored Glasses, Backside of 30, Lady Lay Down, and about 95% of Gary Stewart's records, 14 Karat Mine and Farewell Party by Gene Watson.
Wow, those were great records.
Corvette Song, One Woman Man by George Jones, 7 Spanish Angels by Ray Charles and Willie Nelson, Ronnie Millsap, Daydreams About Night Things, Smokey Mountain Rain, Charlie Pride, Cotton Picking Mississippi Delta Town, a bunch of them, man. The list just goes on.
I know.
On.
You were a first call player in there, or at least in top 3 in Nashville. And I always wanted you there, not only for your extreme talent of playing guitar, but your personality. When we went in there, it was all a family in the studio.
Oh yeah, the camaraderie was great.
I know.
All them hooligans you hired to play.
They were a raggedy crew. I was looking at a picture the other day when we went to Caribou Ranch in Colorado, where the really big rock people and pop people like Elton John, the Rolling Stones, Chicago, of course. And here comes us ragtag bunch from Hillbilly Heaven. But we made some good records up there.
We had a great time, especially when Kirby's horse run away with it.
Oh, that's right. At Caribou Ranch, folks, from what you may not know, they had everything there to accommodate guests, recording, living quarters, and nice cabins for everybody, and some recreation, horses to ride, the snowmobiles, which we didn't get to take out because the snow was not deep enough, and they might hit a rock. Hey, tell me your most memorable time in a studio. I know you have a lot of them. Pick one.
Oh, God, Kilroy, there's so many of them. Memorable, you mean good?
Yeah, I mean good.
Intense.
Both of them. Huh? Give me a good one first.
Okay. Well, okay. When we recorded 7 Spanish Angels with Ray Charles.
Yeah.
All right. I got to the studio, and we'd been cutting with him all week, and he was notorious for getting on musicians or something like that. So I figured, okay, this is Friday, man. Maybe I'll escape. So I got to the studio, and Billy Sherrill, he met me at the back door, and he said, you got a gut string? I said, sure have, because me and Billy Sanford was playing all the acoustic stuff on there. I don't know who was playing lead on the particular thing there, that album, that record. Anyway, I said, yeah. He said, well, get it. And he played me a tape, and Troy Seals had wrote this song, him and another guy, called 7 Spanish Angels. And he said, I want you to come up with something like that right there. And he says, we'll cut the track first, and then we'll overdub it. So we did, and then it come time after the session to overdub on it. And Ron Reynolds, Snake, was the engineer. And I said, I had the part worked out, and I said, Snake, roll the tape, man. He played it. Old Ray hit that talkback button. He said, no, baby, that ain't right. Do it again. I did it again. I ain't deviated one note. I even breathed in the same spots. He says, no, baby, that ain't right. Evidently, you can't hear the count. I thought, you know how I could be a smart butt.
Yes, I know very well.
I had to bite my lip. And I said, no. I said, I wanted to say, I can hear the count and I can see this dang chart. So I said, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. And so I told him, you know, Billy and me have already talked this over, and this is what he wants. He said, all right, do it again. I played it. Kilroy, I did not deviate one note. And he hit that talkback button. He said, God almighty, baby, that's great.
That's a funny story. That's a funny story.
Yeah, well, it was good. And then, you know, later on, I did 2 more albums with him.
Right.
And one day he had this song, and I'm playing lead. Billy Sanford, he said, you playing lead now, buddy. I said, you know, I thought Billy might do that because of respect for his seniority. He'd been there a few years more than me.
Yes.
And he's a heck of a guitar player. So Ray run this song down, and I'm over there, and I hit this lick. You know, kind of a squealy blues lick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rocking. And Ray said, who played that? Ain't nobody said nothing. And other than played what? And Ray mimicked the lick. And Bob Ray, the bass player, said, oh, that was the guitar player, Dale. And I'm ducking Kilroy. I'm over behind the baffle, and I'm almost laying down because I think he might be able to see me. And he said, Bob told him, said, guitar player, Dale played it. Ray said, Dale, did you play that lick? I said, yes, sir. He said, Lord have mercy. Play that every time that part of that song comes around. And so I got away with murder playing with him, man, you know. Because, you know me, I always played out on the edge.
I do. I know.
I never did, you know, go to the status quo. I pushed it as far as I could.
Tell me about it.
Tell you about it?
I know.
We'll get around to that in a second. Right. Anyway, he says, I did some more albums with him, and he sent a tape back that he took back to California, redid his vocals, and Billy wanted me and Billy Pewitt to overdub on it. Pewitt's a saxophone player. There was a couple of 3 songs there, and Ray left me a message on the front of the tape. I wish I had got Snake to do me a little cassette of it. All he said is, Dale, you know what to do. I mean, what can you say?
Well,
can't argue with that.
You always did know what to do. Every time we worked together anyway.
I always played for the song. I listened to what does this song need? What does it not need?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Another real tense moment in the studio was over at Fireside. I was working for this producer named Eddie Kilroy.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
And it was recording this girl, a female singer, and Kilroy, he hit that talkback button. He said, Sellers, give me a 60-40 Willie Waylon. And I thought to myself, 60-40 Willie Waylon. What could that be? So I turned to the mic, which was sitting in front of me. I said, Kilroy, I said, what are we doing? Are we cutting records or playing a game of football? And that's when Kilroy, you, sir, you hit the talkback button. You said, Sellers, meet me outside. Come out here. Go out in the lobby. So I stood up and I told the steel player, I said, man, it's nice knowing you. I feel this. Would you please come to my funeral? I went out there. And Kilroy is 10 foot tall and bulletproof, you know.
At that time, I thought.
Well, at that time, yeah. You know, and you come out there and I figured, this cowboy's going to kill me. And you put your arm around me and you looked at me and you grinned and you said, listen, you smart butt. He said, help me out. Don't give me a hard time. I said, well, 60-40 Wheeler Waylon, I assume you want that phaser sound on that Telecaster. He said, that's it. And so case closed.
Well, you nailed it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, we had the opportunity to work with so many great players up there. And like you said, there was so much camaraderie. But we had fun while we were making records.
Yeah, Kilroy, you know, the fun showed up on the record.
Absolutely, absolutely. It shows through.
It made it to the vinyl.
You know, I don't think I ever mentioned this to you, but I guess because I used the same band most of the time, unless maybe one instrument was not available, you know. And somebody told me one time, said, Kilroy, I like your records because it sounds like a band playing. And I thought, yeah, it did, didn't it? It was not like that precise recording. Everything was perfect on it, but it was like the fun was showing through the music. And that was
well, you know, you can make it as perfect as you want and have fun, and it's going to show up, you know?
Absolutely. Hey, this good friend of mine and my compadre on this podcast, Jason Young. Jason, as I said, has a great band, great player, and a great singer. And Jason may have a question for you.
Well, for me, you know, being a guitar player myself, which, you know, I chop wood, probably can hear it compared to you, but what I would love to know, what's your favorite guitar? What is it?
Jason, my favorite guitar, if I was limited to one guitar, it would be a Telecaster, because it's one of the most crudely built instruments. It's nothing fancy about it, but it's got that sound.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, my Telecasters, I have, how many of these things I got? I got 3 of them, and then I got some Les Pauls that I love, and some Kramer American Pacers, and one of my other favorite guitars is an Ibanez Artist EQ from 1979. I seen a thing where Steve Miller had one, and I was signed with Ibanez, and I called the guy up, and I said, hey, I want one of them. So they built me one.
What year is your Telecaster that you go to?
I have a 65 and a 70. They all got maple necks on them, one-piece maple necks. I put aftermarket necks on them. I got from Fender. And the one that I basically play all the time is a 52 reissue custom shop that Kerry Irvin out in California built for me when he was working there. And nice. The thing about them, about all my guitars, especially the Fenders, because Gibson's got flatter necks, is that I have compound radius fretboard where the frets lay. It goes from I think 9.5 up to 12 or 13, and I use 6100 jumbo frets, Dunlop jumbo frets, and that just makes the biggest difference in the world.
Well, I have one more question about gear, if that's okay.
No, sure.
So what amp do you play through?
Mesa Boogie Mark III.
Mesa Boogie, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they're dandies, huh? Well, something else I was going to ask you, too. What was the craziest thing that ever happened on a recording studio in your career in Nashville?
The craziest thing?
Yeah.
Well, there was some things happened that I was not privy to be there, but I heard about some guy that was a bull riding cowboy throwed a pack of firecrackers under Bobby Thompson's chair.
Let me, for the listeners out there, let me interject this. I was not a bull rider. I was a bulldogger. Big guys don't ride.
I didn't know.
Well, big guys can't ride bucking horses. They just fall off. I did that a lot too.
Yeah, you was a bulldogger. I didn't know that. I've been lying to people all my life, telling them I know of a guy that was a bull rider.
Well, the only difference is the bulls are older and the steers are younger, and they're smaller. I always picked on small things. Well, we had some grand times together. Hey, Porter Wagoner. You have a Porter Wagoner story?
Not really to tell.
Okay.
No, I tell you, Porter was a good guy. I got along great with him because I used to fish a lot, and he lived in the Center Hill Lake.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
he
I'd
did.
go up there, I'd run into him and hang out with him and all that. Yeah. Porter was a good guy.
Hey, I've got a story for you.
All right.
All right. Bobby Bear and Jerry Reed were so close. You know, they pitched every day together.
Oh, yeah.
And they lived close together. And they were just like, big pals. You know, Bobby came down really, really ill, and we lost him early.
Yeah.
So, of course, Bobby went to the hospital to visit with him, and Reed told Bear, said, Bear, you know, I'm not going to live very long. They say maybe I've got a couple of days. Bear didn't say anything. And Jerry Reed said, well, aren't you going to say anything? Bear said, yeah. Can I have your fishing poles? It's that music humor.
Yeah, well, Reed, I was good friends with Jerry, man. I worked with him on a number of things, albums, soundtracks for movies,
Yeah.
and things like that. And the last time I saw Jerry, he spent the whole day with me.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet y'all had fun. He was a great guy.
Oh, he was. He was one of the most talented guitar. He called it guitar thinking. He thinks guitar other than playing. But, man, that guy, I remember one time he got Barney, I think it was Barney Kessel, you know, the jazz player from L.A. that played in the Wrecking Crew and all that bunch.
I could say yes, but I'd be lying. I'll take your word
Yeah,
for it.
well, okay. Gibson made a Barney Kessel model guitar one time, and I think it was Barney Kessel. Reed had him come to Nashville and stay with him for about a week and teach him all this real deep theory stuff. And some of it, Jerry laid on me, which I still got and still play, you know, because
Sure.
I will throw a little something out of left field on a song if I can get away with it, if it calls for it.
That always
But
works.
Reed was he was something else, man.
He was. Great personality, great player. You know,
Let me tell you.
Go
Let me
ahead.
tell you his story. Okay, here's
Please.
the story about. We were cutting Jerry Reed and album on him over at Woodland Studio, and he had me and Pete Wade playing electric guitars with him, and I did play lead on a thing that I overdubbed. He took me to RCA one night and got me to play on this. But back to the thing where me and Pete Wade were playing, he did The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and he put down 3 tracks of harmony with that guitar on this thing. I think it was, 3 tracks. So anyway, I believe it's 3 tracks. There might have been 2, but whatever it was a killer. Everybody else is in the lobby of the studio, you know, hanging out, the rest of the band. It took him 3 hours to do this overdub on this one song. So he give me, and me and Pete Wade make a double scale. That's $500 a session for
Sure.
3 hours. He give us some money and say, hey, you go get us, go over there somewhere, over there around the other side, near Vanderbilt, some pizza joint, and get some pizzas and bring them back. That's the highest I've ever been paid for bootlegging pizza across town.
That's funny. Oh, Lord, you've got so many stories. Don't stop telling stories, okay? And Jason can interject anytime he wants to. He's my
Yeah.
Well,
he's my sidekick.
I've got something I'd like to know.
Sure.
So, how did you get into country music? How did you get playing studio sessions and stuff?
Okay, how I got in the studio was Pete Drake. You know the steel player?
Mm-hmm.
Had a hit
Oh, yes.
back in '60, before I ever got there, forever. Well, you know, he had a band and he had a record label and he had a publishing company. Pete was a smart guy.
Yeah,
and
he
he
was.
was a good record producer. He just a good music man. Well, he needed a guitar player in his road show for weekends and stuff like that. And some Billy Ray Reynolds, who now dead, used to play with Waylon. He told him, he said, I know a boy that plays downtown sometimes down there. I've run into him. He said, he'd be perfect. So he said, well, call him up. So they called me up, and I went out, and Billy Ray said, hey, we was driving back. We had a traveled on a Winnebago bus and just go out on the weekends. He told him, said, hey, Pete needs a guitar player. He said, and I want you to have the job. I said, sure, I'll take it. So I told Pete, I said, I want to play with you, man. And that's how I did. I evolved through demo sessions and things like that into the big leagues.
Who was the first big artist you got to record for?
First big artist, well, the first one was probably, and if you ever sat and you had, if you was working for Chet Atkins, you're a guitar player, you're nervous. It was Hank Snow. I think that was the first real big artist I ever did was Hank Snow.
Yeah, that was one of Chet's artists he was producing.
Yeah. I was 24 years old, and he said, Dale, play the solo on this on an acoustic guitar. It was me and Jimmy Capps, and we played two parts, harmony.
Sure.
So yeah, he was, Chet was something else. I worked with him on the Everly Brothers, and I did some things with him, and a lot of things with Chet, boy, because he was just a super nice guy, man. In fact, there's a Guitar Player magazine. It's a book called 40 Years of Guitar Player Interviews. And the Chet Atkins interview, he's talking, and he said, it's in there, he said his 4 favorite guitar players to play on sessions was Grady Martin, Pete Wade, Billy Sanford, and Dale Sellers.
That's high cotton, son. You're walking in it. All great players, all great people. Let me interject something here. The players in Nashville, not just the guys that I used, probably all of them, they were basically all good guys.
Yeah.
You did mention Grady, and Grady could be very grouchy.
Yeah, he could be. He could be cantankerous. But let me tell you this. Grady, I used to go around with Pete Drake when I first was working with him, and I'd set his steel guitar because Pete wasn't in the greatest physical health,
Right.
And his wife, Rose, told me the reason he had you do that is he wanted all these other session players to get to know you.
Pretty darn good.
And, because, she said Pete's seen something in you that very few of them, the way I played and the way I thought about stuff. So I was at Bradley's barn, and Grady's there. And I asked Grady, I said, Grady, do you mind if I sit here and just listen and watch you play? He said, no, just bring me some coffee once in a while. And shoot, man, I brought him gallons of it.
Oh, Lord. Lord, and the engineers that we worked with, which were various ones, but they all kind of folded into the family.
They did what?
Folded. In other words, they became part of the family. I forgot you were from Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. We just had a great atmosphere and great vibes in Nashville, and I was thrilled. Yeah. I was thrilled to find you because I'd been using one guy regularly, and Jimmy Colvard. Colvard used to tickle me. I said, "Take the edge off that fuzz a little bit." He'd turn it wide open. Boy, was he obstinate. I learned when I wanted to talk to him, I would say the opposite of what I really wanted, because that's what he was going to give me.
Yeah, well, Colvard, I learned a few things off of him, and if I was on a session with him, he'd go walking in with an acoustic guitar, and I'd say, "Where's your electric, man?" Because I figured he'd be playing electric. He said, "No," he said, "you can play this country crap better than me."
He was a rocker.
Oh, boy, I tell you what, I named him the Hillbilly Bear.
Yeah.
When we was over in France doing a thing at the Olympia Theater with Eddie Mitchell for a week one time in Paris, and me and Colvard was the guitar players. And, man, he would crack down. He'd make that old amp jump 2 foot off the floor.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, so I just named him the Hillbilly Bear because he'd waddle out there in them overalls. Well, let me back up here about his wardrobe. First time I seen Colvard was like when I first moved to Nashville. I was watching TV one day and the Ralph Emery show, and there's this guitar player. He's got a tie and a suit on. He's playing a Birdland Gibson. And I thought, Lord, this cat's good, man. And it was Colvard, and he did a 360 turn on us. Over the years, he let his hair grow long. He had a beard hanging down longer than Billy Gibbons. And a $125 Les Paul copy guitar. And he wore overalls.
He was one character.
Oh, let me tell you, this is you want to talk about a character. We was on a gospel session over at Woodland Studio. I think it was a Spear family or somebody. And Colvard had a jug of sangria wine. Now, you figure this one out. And he had it sitting in the floor by his chair, and it had a long neck on it. And so when he was leaving, somebody in the group told him, he said, Colvard, if you don't straighten up, you're going to hell. He says, I hope so, because I don't want to have to jam with no harp players.
That is funny. That is funny, Brother Dale.